Hello there, and a huge welcome to this playlist, which is designed for people with long-term chronic conditions, including long COVID, and those dealing with disability. In fact, any situation where your body's letting you down. I want to talk today about how what you focus on makes such a difference. Where we focus our time and our energy, seems to get bigger. So if you focus on what you can't do rather than what you can do, that becomes more and more challenging. If you are into your spiritual journey, there's much talk about how our vibration, how our feelings and how we turn up moment by moment has an impact on whether we attract more difficulty or whether we attract abundance. You may have read The Secret. There's lots of stuff on YouTube, and you can read some of my other books or look at some of the other videos if you want to know more. But ultimately, if you are focusing on, I'm in pain, I feel dreadful, I don't think I'm going to get better, I can't go dancing anymore, I can't go traveling anymore, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do the other, the whole quality of every day is going to be coloured by that, by the feeling of lack, the feeling of loss. Start to look at what you can do, and you'll be amazed. There may be 1,000 things you can't do, but there'll be multiple thousands of things that you can do. And if you focus on those, that in itself generates a sense of possibility. It is an uplifting energy rather than this depressing and negative energy that comes from what you can't do. I want to give you a couple of examples, and one or two of them are personal and quite extreme, and I'm not suggesting that it's the best way for you, but it just exemplifies what I mean. I came out of hospital after both back surgeries, unable to do very much. In both occasions, I found myself, well, on the first one, I was a very good stalk. I could stand on one leg, but I couldn't walk. And the second time, I was completely unable to stand and wheelchair bound. Now, at that time, I was the head or principal of a large school, and I was back at school very, very quickly. Indeed, after the second operation, I was back at school part-time 4 days after I came home. Now, at one level, that was absolute madness. It was 5 months later that the neurosurgeon said to me, I think we might think about you going back to school part-time a couple of hours a week. I just laughed. I'd been part-time for 3 weeks and then gone full-time. I'm not suggesting that's for everybody, but if I was at home, I was so limited and I lived on my own. I had carers in morning and evening, but if I was on my own and somebody hadn't filled the kettle, put a cup out, got the coffee or the tea or the sugar out, I couldn't open the fridge, for example. My upper body strength wasn't strong enough. And I only had daytime television or reading. Or my carer could help me into the taxi, somebody helped me the other end. I could go into school, I had a wheelchair there. I could run my school very effectively. My brain worked, my mouth worked, patently works, my hands worked. So I could be really helpful and run the school. Somebody else could do the heavy lifting. Somebody else could reach things down for me, make me a cup of coffee. But I could be really, really useful. I was focusing on what I could do. I know that's an extreme example and probably a bit foolish, but what are you focusing on? The second example I want to give you is recognizing that there are going to be lots of things that you can't do. I used to love walking in nature, and now I can still wheel in nature, but the landscapes which are open to me are far more limited than they used to be. So if I go to the beach, I choose a place where there is a pathway, a promenade, where I can see the sea and smell the sea, but I can't walk on the beach. It's just too difficult. And although I can walk short distances, walking on sand is incredibly difficult. If I want to walk and I want to be around trees, I have to go to a park where there is a path. I can't go into the forest as I used to. And so you accommodate. But instead of focusing, I can't get out in nature, I find ways that I can. So Having a solution finding focus is really helpful. Having a well-developed, and in my case, warped sense of humor is really helpful. But when I focus on what I can do, I find that there's an amazing array of things that I can do. And if I am really creative, there are things that I would not be able to do if I just looked at it and thought, you know what, I can't. I was involved in a course with Tony Robbins in 2006. And at the beginning of the day, he talked about a course in California I really wanted to do. Now, you need to bear in mind, by this time, I'd left headship. I was no longer a principal. But when I was a serving principal, I worked as an advisor for the DFES, a facilitator for the National College of Leadership and the London Institute. I did all sorts of roles outside school to bring a budget into school. And a taxi driver would pick me up, take me to where I went. I had my wheelchair in the back. I'd go and do what I was going to do and then come back. So when I went on this course, and Tony Robbins was talking about a course he was going to run in California, although I'd done all of those things, I completely dismissed it. Why? Well, I didn't have, in those days, I didn't have an electric travel chair that I have now. Thought, how will I manage going on my own? How will I manage the flight? How will I manage the course? That day, we did a fire walk, and I was determined to do it. And by 2006, I could walk a few steps unaided and a few more if I had help. A fire walk is where you walk across hot coals, and if you're in the right mindset, you don't burn your feet at all. I was determined to do that. I did it with somebody holding my arm both sides, and I was ecstatic that I'd managed it. And as I sat back into my wheelchair, I was facing the guy who came after me, and he was a double amputee. He didn't have any legs below the knee. He tipped himself up onto his hands, and he walked those bright red coals on his hands. I realized in that moment I was self-limiting. That night, I booked my ticket and I booked my place on the course. I went and did it, had a fabulous time, have since then done all of Tony Robbins' stuff, become a senior leader for him. And I did that because I realized that I was self-limiting. So what are you focusing on? What can you do with a bit of creativity and a bit of thought, and probably a few times when you're going to have to laugh at yourself because you've got it so badly wrong, at least that's me, but finding ways through. When you do that, the quality of your life and those around you will change. I'd love to know how you're getting on. I'd love to know your story. Please do let me know. And if I can help you, just email gina@genuinely-you.com. Take care. See you in the next video.